Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of Conscious Caregiver Conversations. Just going to wait to see Samantha. Hello, Echo. There's Samantha. Okay, let's get Samantha added. It's so lovely to see you, Echo. Thank you for coming on and watching us live. Okay, we're having some technical stuff as per usual. But we're trying. We're trying to get Samantha on. Oh, did we get her? There she is. Hello,
Good morning.
Good morning.
And good evening for where you are as well.
Yes.
I always forget that.
Yes, I know. It's so weird to think that it's Thursday morning over in Aussie land.
It is, and my children are rambunctious this morning, so you might hear them in the background, but as we always say, perfection does not live here. As our beautiful mentor Echo says, it certainly does not live in my household.
That's okay. Perfection is overrated.
It totally is.
Echo,
Totally
that's a new
is.
slogan for you. You can say perfection does not live here, and then you can have another one that says perfection is overrated.
I love it. Oh, all right. I have also cast a circle of light on this side, so I feel like we are beautifully encompassed across the globe, and wherever you might be tuning in from, it's like it's fully encompassed because, like we've said last time, Jenna and I are literally on the opposite sides of the globe in the hemispheres, the northern and southern hemispheres, and time zones as well. So I feel like, me casting like a circle of light and Jenna, and it's just beautifully connected because let's jump right in, Jenna, because we've both had bit ordinary weeks, to be honest, haven't we?
Yes, it has been. I am just getting home and actually contemplated going live in my office and was on the phone with one of my not sure what the word is. He's not one of my leaders, but he's one of, I guess you could say he's one of like my professional mentors at work, who works at corporate and used to be a director of education before getting a job in corporate, and was talking to him, and I said, you know what? I'm leaving. I am leaving.
Yes. And I definitely think that healthy boundaries is something we will do, I think, several conversations on, because that's huge, I think, and it's very easy for us to get sucked into staying later on our shifts and, filling in the gaps and being there because we care. And but sometimes we need to put in place those healthy boundaries. That's definitely I think several conversations around that.
Yeah.
But today we're going to, and I'm really going to leave it up to you, Jenna, and I'm going to just throw some questions at you about if I was coming in and just watching this and I'm a nurse or I'm a physician or, whatever, having a bit of a hard time, feeling really burnt out and overwhelmed. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, well, why would I want to become a conscious caregiver? Like, what does that help? We see so many systemic issues, we see wider issues, we see health issues in our community. How on earth does bringing it back to me and bringing it back to this conscious caregiver, like, why would I do that? Like, what can that actually help?
So as you were talking, Samantha, one word dropped into my head immediately: self-preservation. is all about self-preservation. And, the whole idea of that is that we find ourselves often throughout our day, whether it be with a patient who's not doing too well, or, just having these dicey circumstances, um, you know, difficulties with communication, whether it's with patients or colleagues or physicians or whatever it might be. And they they can be very sticky, right? They can become very sticky. And um, oftentimes we find ourselves in this posture of defensiveness, or feeling offended, or whatever it might be. And kind of like what we talked about last week, you know, so much of this comes back to the things that we hold within ourselves that aren't serving us. So, you know, maybe a physician cops a little bit of an attitude with us about something that we did, or, is coming across critical, and we immediately become defensive. First of all, we receive that as criticism, and then we become defensive. And it points to some things that we're holding within ourselves, and, insecurities and lack of confidence and things like that. And they become energy leaks for us. They become these siphons that just suck the life out of us. And so when you become this conscious caregiver and you start to be able to look at those situations from the perspective of, okay, that person may or may not have been acting in a way that, I don't appreciate. But ultimately, the way that I was receiving it, they were triggering something in me. And you can start to look at that and really take it apart and peel back the layers. Then you can start to heal that. And when you start to heal those things, then you begin to neutralize the triggers. And when you begin to neutralize the triggers, then they're no longer siphoning your energy. So it sounds like a lot of work. I actually gave a talk for the Palm Beach County chapter, which is the county that I live in, the Palm Beach County chapter of the American Association of Critical Care Nurses, in the spring. They had a 2-day symposium, and they gave me the opportunity to do my presentation, much the same presentation that I was telling you about that I do for the novice nurses, Samantha. And I did actually have somebody say, that sounds like a lot of work. And I'm like, well, so does burnout.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, and it just
that's exactly right. Yeah.
Right. And it just kind of goes back to how would you rather feel? How would you rather feel? And that's not to say, Samantha can tell you, I've had some challenging stuff happen this week that, still, I've had to unpack, and I've had to do all of this work. It is a journey. And, as you grow and you elevate into new roles, you're going to get challenged again and again, because it's that next level, right? It's that next layer. But, I know, I can tell you, after having done this work for the last 3 years, that yes, I still am confronted with so many things that I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to feel like this anymore. But I have my tools, and I have my teachings, and I have my practices that I can go back to, and I can bring myself back down to some state of groundedness that I never would have been able to do 3 years ago. There's no way that I would be able to manage this role, even with some of the stress and the overwhelm that I feel now 3 years ago. There's just no way. I look at some of the stuff I've been dealing with this week, and when I tell you that I would not be able to eat, I would have sleepless nights, that would be a thing with some of the things that I'm navigating today. I'm sleeping. I'm not going to say that I'm completely anxiety free and totally okay, but I'm getting rest, I'm eating, I'm still able to kind of come back and remove myself from that situation and, take care of myself. Whereas in the past, I would have been an absolute mess. And so that's the value of, doing this work. And that is why it's worth it, because it really comes down to
Yeah.
how you want to feel.
Exactly. And there's like a number of things to unpack, even just what you've said there. But the self-preservation that is, sometimes you don't realize what this, this self-development, clearing out the throat chakra here, this self-development or this healing journey, like sometimes it seems a bit airy fairy. It does, but then what happens is that you go through a similar circumstance or a similar stressor or a similar experience, and you handle it so differently. Like in your leadership role, Jenna, you've dealt with some incredibly difficult things this week. For me, it's been actually in juggling motherhood and my career this week. But again, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I would not have been able to deal with and moved through the challenges with as much grace, with as much flow as I can today. And that's how I know, and that's why Jenna and I we're so passionate about this, because this inner work, and what I wanted to expand on is it's a self-preservation, but it's also a self-awareness. And that's where we say it's not waiting for your manager to change, or it's not waiting for your surgeon, or what we call them surgeons, or doctor to change. It's not waiting for anything external to change, because really we are the only ones who have control over ourselves. Like, we have influence over other people, influence over systems, influence in our community, but really we're the only ones that can necessarily do anything and make that change. So could you expand a bit on how becoming self-aware, and that includes, becoming emotionally aware. You touched on it a bit already with understanding your triggers and why that's so important. That's a big question, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually been working on that with some people at work this week, and it's so interesting because one of the things that I think is so important, and as you all might remember, I am a director of education, so I oversee an education department. But regardless of whether you're an educator or not, if you're a nurse or a caregiver, you're educating. And one of the things that is so important about communication and about being an educator is that you want your message to be received. And in order to have that message be received, being self-aware, knowing how you come across to other people, understanding what makes you respond or react to people the way that you do is so important. Because if you have a tendency to respond in a way that is going to put somebody on the defense, they're going to immediately put up a wall, and your message isn't going to be heard. But your message is so needed and so necessary and so powerful. But you don't want that message to be met with, a shield, right? Like, not coming in, right? And so that's, that there in of itself, there's so much in being self-aware, because there are so many caregivers right now. Again, we touched on this last week, but you see the areas in which the system could stand to improve. You see where we could do better for patients, for ourselves, whatever. But we become so triggered. I can't think of any other word right now. We become so triggered. We become so worked up. We become so emotional. We become so defensive. We become so, victimized, that we just we just verbally vomit all over people. And what does that do to, let's just say, the leadership of your facility, when you're coming at them? And they want to help you. At least I can say in my facility, I'm very blessed with a C-suite that's very invested in our facility, and they want to help you. But again, and not to excuse any work that they might need to do, that's their work to do. But when you're coming at them and you are immediately in kind of an attack mode, that's going to put them on the defense. The wall goes up, the message isn't heard. So it's important, like, I always say that it's important to acknowledge your emotions. You're entitled to your emotions. You should take the time to process through your emotions. But at the end of the day, when you have an important message that you need to get across, you need to have that awareness of like, okay, I know that this situation makes me feel some type of way, so I'm going to take the time to process through that and journal and meditate and do the healing work, whatever needs to be done, so that I can step into this being grounded and in my power. And when I'm grounded and in my power, I'm not speaking from this place of attack, but rather, this is what, I see that could be done differently. This is perhaps some of the research that would back that up. And then here are some ideas that I have for solutions. Being a solution seeker, something that our mentor Echo always says, being a solution seeker. In this day and age, with everything that's going on with healthcare and all the different, balls that we have in the air, like, we want solutions. My CEO says that all the time. Like, she knows that there's challenges. Come to her with solutions. Come to her with some things that she can work with and consider. So, again, so important to acknowledge and not bypass your feelings, but have the awareness so that you can process through them in a healthy way, so that when you do need to approach people who can help you to make a difference, you can do so in a way where can be heard.
Yes. Oh my goodness. You are speaking from my heart, Jenna, which is why we're so aligned with this, because I feel like, this is just my perspective, but I feel like a big part of burnout and dissatisfaction in your role as a caregiver is being or feeling like you're not being heard and feeling like you're not being seen. And that's when obviously most caregivers go into a caring profession because they care and they want to give, and it's very hard then, and it becomes very emotive when we come across challenges that prevent us from giving that care in whatever capacity that looks like. So not feeling seen and heard is a huge part, I think, of that, burnout, or just even feeling that ickiness, that dissatisfaction in your job. It's like, well, my manager doesn't care. Oh, well, my educator doesn't care. Like, I'm just going to, be sort of in my little angry little bubble. And then what happens is then we have a heated, or even just a very, especially I work in theatre, and it's very when decisions need to be made, they need to be made, then that can be taken the wrong way. And then from a small situation, it just blows up, and then you feel even worse. And so I just want to recap for the moment that the reason that, big whys in doing this work and becoming a conscious caregiver is that self-preservation and that longevity in your career, that you don't want to burn out. Yeah, like you don't want to, we need to look after ourselves, because at the end of the day, that is our responsibility. So we have that self-preservation, and then we have that self-awareness, and becoming especially emotionally aware of our own triggers and how we come across to people, and ways that we can approach something in order to get our messages across. Because like you said, most of the time, almost 99% of the time, when us as a caregiver in any capacity want to say something, it's because there's truth behind that message. So we want that message to come across. Yeah. And I can't believe that we've already talked for this long, but let's finish on. I know, because this is a lot to unpack. I do want to invite any of our listeners that if any of these things are like, oh my gosh, yes, you need to expand on this, I want Jenna and Sam to talk more about this. This is a community for us all, and we want to expand on things that are going to really help you in your everyday as well. So that's just a side note. But let's finish off. What else can we think of, Jenna? Like, why would we do this work? Like, ultimately, there's something that you touched on, I'm pretty sure it was the last live, that, like we said, we want to see that change, that systemic change. We want to see that even departmental change, whatever it might be. But you said something in your last live, and I'm probably not going to quote you correctly, but if we change within, or not if we change, but if we become aware and do this work within, then our external environments have no choice but to change. Could you expand a bit on that? And I think that would be a great way to sort of bring this all together.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like we talked about last week, when, as you're doing this work and as you're opening your mind to this idea of consciousness and, getting into, just the divinity of it all and, how the universe works and quantum physics and all of that, you start to realize that everything that's happening around us is just the sum of the collective consciousness. And so when you hear terms like you create your reality, or we created this, or I created this, that's why, because everything that's going on around us is the sum of our collective consciousness. With that being said, if we are looking to shift things, if we're looking for things to, appear differently and to work differently, then we have the power to shift our consciousness, which will then shift our reality. And this can be done on multiple scales. This can be done on a collective scale, which is one of the reasons why Samantha and I wanted to dive in and have these conversations and start to grow this movement. Because for healthcare to shift for the positive on a larger scale, we need the collective consciousness to shift, right? So, we want to bring people together who are looking for actionable change and, are wanting to come together to come back to self in order to then affect this massive change, this massive global change on healthcare. But you can also experience these shifts personally. Because as you begin to unpack and peel back the layers and look at some of the things within yourself that may not be serving you, that may have served you at one time, but are not serving you now in this present moment, and you begin to work through those, then you are going to shift the way you perceive your own reality. You're going to begin creating anew. You're going to begin to change what's going on around you because of how you are now changing how you see and respond to your environment. And when you shift how you see and respond to your environment, the environment is going to respond in kind. One of the things that I talk to the nurses about when I'm educating them at the hospital is, if you walk up onto the unit and you've already decided, like, you're already coming onto the unit with that, ugh, here we go again, energy, the universe is going to match you and say, okay, here's more of that, right? So that's the importance of, like, setting intentions, really thinking about and embodying how you want to feel throughout your shift, how you would envision your ideal shift going, what that would feel like in your body, what your interactions with your patients would feel like, what your interactions with your colleagues would feel like. When you really start to, like, embody that and go in every day with those intentions, things are going to start to shift. Now, certainly there's that other work too of, being willing to look at some of the things that, don't make you feel warm and fuzzy, right? There's that part of it as well that goes along with all of this work. It's really, it's really a very thorough practice. I mean, we look at, manifesting what we want, but we also look at what's keeping us from being able to manifest what we want. So there's multiple pieces to this that we'll unpack over the coming weeks. But, the bottom line is, just that simple practice, like, the next time any of you go on shift, take 5 or 10 minutes before walking in the door to set your intentions for your shift and really start to think about and feel within your body how you want to feel for your day, and go into work, go up to your unit saying, okay, like, we're going to feel good today. Things are going to flow with grace and ease. We're going to have good conversations. There might be some things that, come up, but we're going to navigate these with grace and ease, and we're going to have a great day. And really start to take inventory of what feels different in your day, because if you do, like, even just doing that one day is going to make a difference. But then if you start consistently doing that every day, things are going to change. Things are going to change. And not only are they going to change within you, but you're probably going to end up impacting those that you work with on a regular basis too. And it's going to shift the entire culture and the entire climate of the unit. And that is exactly what we're talking about here. And then to be able to take that even further, which will be amazing. But let's just start there, because you have that power. And that's something that, we've kind of gone into this idea of, they call it victim consciousness, where everything's happening to us. But you actually have the power to make those changes. And when you do that, you start to actually see how everything's happening for us, because the universe was just waiting for you to remember how powerful you are.
Exactly. And I'd like to just share a very brief example to finish on, because I think that's beautiful. And maybe next week we will work on that, how to actually start a day and put that intentions into a shift, because that does make a big difference. In theatre, we obviously get changed at work into specialised scrubs. And so we have a locker area and a change room. And it's really interesting, because I got into a pattern of meeting everyone's energy, which was, down here, and like, oh, how are you today? Yeah, I'm here. Like, that very flat. And it felt like what I was feeling at the time. But then that flowed onto my shift. And it's amazing, because the last probably 10 shifts or so, I've actually been quite intentional before entering the hospital, and then within that change room, to actually, and it's not about being all like high vibe all the time, but it's like, I'm going good today. I'm here to help my patients. I'm here to, whatever it might be that comes to mind. But just flipping that around, it doesn't mean that I haven't had challenging situations, but it means I've been able to deal with them with so much more grace and ease and so much more flow. And the satisfaction then from that is a lot more, like, upon leaving the shift. It also then, like you said, directly impacts the colleagues that you work with. It's not that it changes all the what might be happening, all the conversations. It's not that it immediately changes that, but the subtleness of what happens, it's like you have to feel it to believe it almost. It's incredible how changing your vibration and your frequency in what you're thinking and feeling, you don't even necessarily need to say anything sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And it is felt and heard. So that's why we do this work, because it actually has very real impacts, and I just love these conversations, because we're bringing, concepts like, law of vibration, law of attraction, different, quantum physics, all these different things that might seem, like out here and not really applicable to, especially in healthcare, where, we need to be exact with things, and we have a science background, and we're very, very focused on evidence-based practice, which is all, all needed. But this woo-woo stuff actually has direct impact on our hearts, on our minds, and then from our internal consciousness out into the collective. It is so powerful. I'm like shaking with energy.
I know. Powerful. So powerful. So powerful. And I'm telling you, not for nothing, if anything else, just the way you feel from day to day. Again, I have challenging days. This has been a huge year of growth for me. So I've had to sit in a lot of discomfort. But first off, what's on the other side of that is huge. But second, the way I feel, how much better I feel because of just being able to retrain and rewire my brain with regard to, the consciousness practices and all of that. I mean, it was definitely a challenging year for me, and I definitely had my low moments, but man, I mean, just your own personal transformation, let alone the impact you could potentially make on your floor, your facility, or even worldwide like we hope to. But just the personal transformation alone makes this work worth
huge. Certainly does. So just a quick summary, big reasons why becoming conscious and becoming a conscious caregiver is so important is that self-preservation and part of that is the self-care and not leading to burnout and having that just more compassion and more understanding of yourself. And then that goes into self-awareness and being very aware of our own emotional triggers, our own emotional intelligence. And through that, we can actually be able to get our messages across, our messages of whatever it might be of concern or improvement or solutions to get those messages across. And then how through doing this work, we actually shift our external environment. And that's where we have impact on those things that are perhaps really challenging for us, whether it be within ourselves, whether it be one-on-one with colleagues or with patients, or whether it be department-wide, system-wide, worldwide, that we can actually have that effect by doing this work ourselves. So that, oh my goodness, is so, so powerful. Do you have anything you'd like to finish off, Jenna, or should we leave it here and come back next week? Obviously open to any DMs, comments on here. If you want us to cover something in particular situation, obviously we'll de-identify any, components, but we are here for you as well. So I'll leave you to finish, Jenna. It's so lovely chatting with you. I can't wait for Thursdays. I love Thursdays. They're so good.
Yes, I so agree. I think you summed everything up so beautifully. And, there's just so many different layers and different things that this work impacts. And we're going to be talking about all of it. There's plenty of time for that. So, I think that that was perfect. And yeah, it's just really about coming back to self. I think we've got to stop focusing on what's going on around us and just bring it back in, and just really focus on what we can do to show up the best way possible. And yeah, it's good work. It's important. And just we love, we're so grateful for all of those of you who are on live, who watch our replays. Please like, share, comment, give us some challenges that you might be facing in healthcare, or some questions you might have that we can speak to when we do these lives, because we're more than happy to take the circumstances and the challenges that you face and really speak to them specifically. And don't forget that we have also opened up our YouTube channel as well, and all of these videos will be housed on YouTube. And at some point we actually hope to move the lives and everything to YouTube as well, but for now Instagram is the perfect platform. So we'll be here, but we'll have replays here on Instagram and then also on YouTube as well. So make sure to check out the YouTube channel, which is in our bios. We'll share the links to it throughout the week, and subscribe to that as well, so that you don't miss any of the goodness, because you don't want to miss it, my friends. You don't want to miss it.
All right. Love you lots. Have a beautiful sleep over there, and we'll see you in Thursday soon.
Sounds wonderful. Have a lovely day, my friend. So good to see you.
You too. Bye.
Bye.